Welcome to Campfire Stories.
Pull in a little closer tonight. Friends, the fire's good and so is the story. Some evenings you want a ghost, something that'll make you check the tree line before bed. And some evenings you want something rarer than that. Tonight we're telling the story of a movie that almost never existed, failed spectacularly when it did, and then came back from the dead to become maybe the most loved film in the history of Christmas. We're talking about It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, I was hoping you'd pick this one. I've been cold since October, and there's no better remedy I know of than George Bailey and that old bridge.
Now, here's where I have to tell you something that trips most people up. This movie, the one Frank Capra made in 1946, the one with James Stewart standing in the snow looking like all the hope in the world has gone out, it started as a short story that nobody wanted. Philip Van Doren Stern wrote a little piece called The Greatest Gift, about a man who wishes he'd never been born and gets the terrible gift of seeing what the world looks like without him. He shopped it to every publisher he could think of. Nobody bought it.
That detail always gets me. The story that became America's Christmas movie, and not one editor in New York had the sense to say yes to it.
So in 1943, Philip Van Doren Stern did what a man does when the world won't listen. He printed 200 copies of the story as a Christmas card, a little booklet really, and mailed it to his friends. That's it. That was his plan. Merry Christmas, here's a story nobody wanted. And somehow, one of those 200 copies landed on a desk at RKO Pictures in Hollywood. They paid him $10,000 for the rights within the month.
$10,000 for a Christmas card. I love this town.
Frank Capra got hold of it next, and he knew immediately. He said later it was the most stirring concept he'd ever come across, which is saying something for a man who'd already made Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. He cast James Stewart, who'd just come home from flying bombing missions over Germany, a genuinely decorated war hero who hadn't been sure he could act anymore, who told friends the war had changed him too much. And you watch the film knowing that, and suddenly George Bailey's desperation doesn't feel like performance.
Jimmy Stewart's eyes in that movie, there's something in them that isn't entirely acting, is there? He knew something real about what it felt like to wonder if you'd thrown your best years away.
They filmed it through the spring and summer of '46. In this enormous outdoor set in Encino, they invented a new kind of fake snow so the actors wouldn't be choking on the old stuff, and Capra poured everything into it. The story they told was about George Bailey, a man in a small town called Bedford Falls who has spent his entire adult life giving up his own dreams to bail out his neighbors, his family, his whole community. And one Christmas Eve, with everything caving in on him, he stands on a bridge in a blizzard and decides the world would be better off without him.
And that's when Clarence shows up. Angel second class. No wings yet?
Angel second class, assigned to earn his wings by saving this particular man on this particular night. And Clarence's method is the strangest gift he could give. He shows George Bailey the town as it would have existed if George had never been born. Bedford Falls becomes Pottersville. The building and loan is gone. The pharmacist who George quietly kept from poisoning a child, he went to prison instead. Mary, his wife, is alone. His mother runs a boarding house and doesn't know his face.
That sequence, Pottersville, the neon signs, all the noise, that's the part that used to frighten me as a child, genuinely frightened me before I understood why. It's because it's not a fantasy. It's just a real town with the goodness taken out. That's all it takes.
That's exactly it. Capra wasn't showing you a monster movie. He was showing you the weight of one ordinary decent life, rendered visible by its absence. And the film came out in December of 1946, and it lost money. It cost $3.7 million to make, and it barely broke even. The critics were mixed. The Academy nominated it for 5 Oscars, and it won none of them. Urco considered it a disappointment, and within a few years they'd let the copyright lapse. They simply forgot to renew it in 1974.
Which is where this story makes the turn into something almost supernatural.
Exactly. Because when you let a copyright lapse, the film enters the public domain and any TV station in America can air it for free. And they did. Every local station, every affiliate with a hole in the Christmas schedule, suddenly there was this beautiful picture available at no cost, and they ran it over and over and over again throughout the 1970s and 80s. People who'd never seen it in a theater watched it on a Tuesday night in December, and then again on a Thursday, and then called their sisters to make sure they'd caught it.
My mother watched it every single year from about 1978 until she couldn't anymore. She'd seen it, 30 times. And she cried every single time in exactly the same place.
Which place?
When Harry Bailey stands up at the party and says, "To my big brother George, the richest man in town," every time, she'd be crying before he finished the sentence.
See, that's the thing about a story that's told enough times to the right people. It stops being a movie and starts being a kind of shared tradition, something you inherit, like a recipe or a prayer. The film that nobody bought, that nobody wanted to publish, that flopped at the box office, that a corporation forgot about it, became one of the most watched films in American history because of an accident of copyright law and the cheap programming needs of local television. Frank Capra called it the one film he was most proud of. He also once said he felt it was a gift from God. I don't think he was being grand. I think he meant it simply, the way a man means it when something works out in a way he cannot explain.
There's something almost Clarence-ish about the whole story, isn't there? This neglected thing getting a second chance, finding the people who needed it.
It really is. You've got a story no editor wanted, made into a movie no audience initially came to see, saved from total obscurity by a clerical error, and handed to a generation of people who watched it on snowy TV sets and decided it was telling them something true. Something about how a life an ordinary, unglamorous, dreamed about, somewhere else life leaves marks you can't always measure. George Bailey never built the bridges he planned. He built different ones. And we are, most of us, doing some version of the same thing. That's what Philip Van Doren Stern put in an envelope and mailed to 200 friends. That's what Frank Capra spent $3.7 million to say. That's what your mother cried at, Carol, 30 times in exactly the same place.
And she was right every single time.
She was. Some stories earn their repetition. Some things are true enough to watch more than once and feel them more the second time than the first, and more the 30th time than the second. I think that's not a small thing. I think that's the whole thing.
I'm going to watch it again this year. Maybe twice. Once alone with a good blanket, and once with you, so I can hear you pretend you're not tearing up at the same part every year.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The bells, Marty. Every time.
The bells are a fine piece of cinema, and I respond to them appropriately. Anyway, tonight's fire was for a story that got lost and found and loved, and if there's a lesson in it for any of us sitting here, I think it's this: do the quiet good. Tell the story. Mail the Christmas card. You cannot know which copy lands where or what it becomes. I'm Marty Shepherd.
Sleep warm, friends. And if you've never seen it, I'm sending you straight to it. The ending is waiting for you. It always has been.